Good morning, Notre Dame fans. Mike Singer and Kyle Kelly live on a Friday morning talking Notre Dame recruiting. Not going to lie, Kyle, a couple days ago, and I was like, man, what are we going to talk about on the show this week? Because there's not a whole lot going on. Some of these bye weeks, non-visitor weekends can be slower. And then we get the Dominic Hulak commitments on Friday morning. So we're going to talk about that. Let us know, what you guys think about this commitment. Any questions you want us to answer in the YouTube live chat. Of course, if you're with us live, hit that thumbs up. If you're watching back, do the same. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Notre Dame recruiting content. Hope everyone is well. I do think that we are going to stick in this Friday slot. It'll be kind of week by week the rest of this calendar year, but I think into the year 2024, we're going to do the Friday mornings. Back when we had Trey Yannity on this show, I think we did Friday afternoons. So I don't know, maybe we'll do Friday afternoons, but we're definitely going to probably move it to Friday just so we don't have the Wednesday night show followed by Thursday morning. It makes more sense for us to space them out a little bit. So that's a little housekeeping note. We got Jason in the chat. We got Corey. Ian says, best thing I listen to while I send emails, no one will respond to today. Ian, I hope you are well. Let's just dive into it. Dominic Hulak committing to Notre Dame this morning. Someone who the Notre Dame staff really wanted, and pushed for and got his commitment. He's a 3-star guy right now, number 448 player, number 44 linebacker per the On3 industry ranking. I got to talk to Charles Power, the On3 director of scouting and rankings, and the way he was talking about him made him seem like he did not view him as a 3-star prospect. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, Kyle, you're what's your reaction to this news and pick up for the Fighting Irish as we pop on his tape for folks watching on YouTube?
Yeah, Mike, pretty much you kind of took my first thought away from me was, basically the Notre Dame staff made a massive push for Hulak, dating back to July when he visited for the Grill and Chill Cookout. That July 30th recruiting event was his 30th visit to campus, third visit to campus.
About to say, damn.
Yeah, first one back in the spring. Then he went in June and camped with both the linebackers and defensive line on June 15th during Notre Dame's first evaluation camp. And I don't think it's really a surprise that after they saw him, work with the coaching staff and got to see him run around in person doing Notre Dame's drills, that they made such a big push for him. Director of recruiting, Chad Bowden, was, joking Hulak during that July 30th visit about committing, and over the next several months until today, that same message, continued, to be portrayed. So finally produced the verbal commitment on Friday morning, and I know you and I think Tim Hyde did a pretty good recap on his film breakdown, but just kind of, one thing that really sticks out to me that I put in my 5 thoughts, which I ran on Blue and Gold this morning at the time of his announcement, was Hulak is a linebacker, lacrosse player, and hockey player. And I think both of those sports are kind of translated on the football field for him. His explosiveness really sticks out, his physicality. Like, there's a couple of plays where he just kind of shot out of a cannon. That kind of reminds me back in the day when I was playing hockey, stops and starts. And you can see that from Hulak. And one just like kind of note, I was kind of curious your thoughts on this. I think you played wide receiver in school, Mike, so I don't know how experienced you are with the defensive side of the ball, but just watching some of his tape, he sometimes tackles with his head behind the ball carrier on his back. I was always told to, tackle with your head, on the front, kind of aim towards the ball. So that was just like one minor thing I saw when looking at his film, just a little critique. But overall, this is a pretty big pickup for Notre Dame. They made a massive push to get him, especially after he visited on October 14th for the USC game. And yeah, Notre Dame's got their latest commit, and he'll play the money position for the Irish, which Maris Leafau currently plays.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. We're talking to a source, and I was like, we had thought that Hulak was being recruited as a Viper, but I was like, just let me reach out to a couple people, just see exactly what the Notre Dame side of this is thinking. And I was told the money position. I'm like, back in the day, how many different terms the Viper position was at first? It was Shark. Was it Shark? And then it turned into Drop, and then Viper. And that was like 3 years in a row. It changed. I was like, is money the new Viper position? And no, it's apparently this Maris Leafau role in Al Golden's defense where you are, a DN sometimes, a linebacker sometimes. You're just kind of this versatile defender, where you're all over the place. So that's what Hulak is coming in to play, which is interesting, because you look at his body type. Just hold on. I think this is actually kind of a good clip right here of him. That's a big dude. He's listed at 263, 225. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like 235. This is a big dude for in this athletic. He moves around really well. You mentioned he plays lacrosse and hockey. You see him on offense, and then even on defense, where he's just running downfield. And it's just like, okay, this dude at this size is moving like this. He's an interesting player, so it kind of makes sense. This, look at that, catching a bubble. Linebackers should not be catching bubbles. This guy is a little bit different. Going to play again, a new term here, folks, the money position. Something you don't really see too often. Kyle says reported a 4.6 40-yard dash, which is ridiculous. Jason says he's nimble for a big dude, and he is just in his junior year, so it's like, look, that 2022 linebacker recruiting class of Nolan Ziegler, Junior Tui Halamaka, Josh Burnham, and Jalen Sneed. Within weeks of getting to Notre Dame, Burnham and Tuli Halamaka, or maybe it wasn't weeks, but moved to D end already, right? The Vipers. So who knows with Hulak, or Hulak, I should say, if he moves to being a D end permanently. We'll see. But it is interesting looking at this class already as I pull up the commit list. He is someone who will get after the passer. So I'm interested, does Notre Dame look at him for their numbers as a D end, as a linebacker, or is it something where it is specific, like, hey, we want to take this money position player every year? But that is 8 commitments now. And you got a pass rusher in CJ May, 6'4", 225 pounds, someone who I think has the frame to bulk up to play the strong side end. Joseph Reif, 6'5", 230 pounds. We believe he's probably more 240, 245. He's a whole play DN. Maybe we'll slide inside. And then you got Hulak, along with Davian Dixon, definitely an interior player at Notre Dame. So it's definitely notable. Here it is, November 10th, over a year until signing day, for the next recruiting cycle. And Notre Dame already has 4 guys who can play defensive line.
Yeah, I mentioned in my 5 thoughts that just kind of a little bit more about this money position, so fans kind of know what to expect from Dominic Hulak when he comes to campus. And I'm sure a lot of these Fighting Irish faithful can see this on game days, but sort of the breakdown for the snap counts with Leafau, where he's lining up across the field. About a fourth of the time is on the D line. So 24% of his snaps this season on defense have come defensive line, 72% at linebacker, and then about 4% you'll occasionally see Leafau line up in the slot corner position. So I think that's what we can kind of expect from Hulak. Sort of, basically the way I kind of thought of it was 1 out of every 4 snaps he'll be on the defensive line. And Mike, when you were breaking down the class, I was wondering if you read my 5 thoughts right before this, because you were kind of doing it for me on what I did. Kind of break down on the defensive side of the ball is, a lot of guys kind of pretty much have really specific positions. Davian Dixon, he'll be like that true nose tackle, one technique sort of guy. Then you have CJ May, which he's kind of the one guy that's his position's a little bit in a flux depending on what his body type does. He could play a strong side defensive end position that Javonte Jean Baptiste plays, or he could be that Viper that Jordan Botello. And I feel like, I know you saw CJ in person. Is he trending more toward strong side defensive end right now with the way
I,
his body's going?
yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
So yeah, that gives fill in the spots there, and then Joseph Reef, who right now plays defensive end for York Community School, but I see um, the comparability between him and Riley Mills, where yeah, Riley Mills also played DM, but he's much better suited at 3 tech, and I think that's the way it's looking for Reef. So that's kind of how the defensive line's made up so far. And I think they're still looking for a true Viper in this class, despite Hulak's commitment, since he is primarily a linebacker guy. And based off, some of the guys we're recruiting so far, I don't think they're going to slow down their approach on the D line with this commitment.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff. So Kyle's currently based in Baltimore. He's on the road. And we'll talk about his road travels a little bit later. So if you're wondering why he's cutting in and out a little bit, it's because Kyle always, whenever Kyle's traveling, his internet sucks. That's basically the situation here. I'm kidding. Whoever Kyle, wherever you're at, Kyle, I don't mean to offend that person. But anyways, I do have a question for you though. I got to ask what time it is, and I'm not talking about 10:42 a.m. Eastern time, Kyle. Do you know what time I'm talking about?
Time to win some money.
That's right. It's time for Prize Picks, sponsored for today's show. Really easy to play. Pick 2 to 6 players per entry, and if they will go more or less than their Prize Picks projections, and you can win 25 times your money on an entry if you go up to 6 players for your entry and you go with that power play. And first-time users that deposit and use promo code BGI will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So if you deposit 100, Prize Picks is going to give you $100, $50, they'll give you $50. Just download that app or go to prizepicks.com and use the promo code BGI. It's not just for college football. You got NFL, college basketballs in here. I didn't see that one yet. They got all sorts of cool specials, soccer, video games, PGA, MMA, and so much more. They also do fun weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday, where a player's projection will get slashed down, or Flex Friday, which I'll probably be doing in a little bit, along with our pick that we'll do here shortly. Flex Friday is basically like a free entry on a flex pick. Yeah, folks, it's easy to use, it's fun, and I enjoy sharing my prize picks with my brothers and just kind of talk about the NFL picks that I make. So a couple of things. We have last week's entry that we did. It took me a while to get here, but we did get that dub. Zach Wilson more than 216 yards against the Chargers. Wait, no. I'm sorry. This was just a fun one I threw on Monday. Zach Wilson more than 216 passing yards, and Justin Herbert more than 9.5 rushing yards. That hit on Monday Night Football. And then this was the one we did on the show last week. The Patrick Mahomes less than 282 against my Dolphins. That hit with ease. And then Derek Carr to run for 3 yards. That hit as well. So you love to see that. So we're sticking with the quarterbacks for this week's entry. We are going Deshaun Watson. I love going more on a low, like less than 200-yard passing total. And my boy Kyle is a Browns fan. So, Kyle, you can walk me off the ledge on this one, but I'm going more with Deshaun Watson on the 189.5 passing yards and less for Brock Purdy on 1.5 passing touchdowns because Purdy's thrown. And Jacksonville's a pretty good team with, I believe, a strong defense. So give me less than Brock Purdy, 1.5 passing touchdowns. He hasn't thrown for more than one passing touchdown in like 5 weeks or something. So that's my thoughts for this week's Prize Picks entry. Kyle, do you have any takes on this?
I know that Ravens defense with Kyle Hamilton in the secondary is playing pretty well this year. But the good news for this entry, Mike, is Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson is finally off the injury report as of a few days ago with that weird shoulder injury he's been dealing with and his throwing arm. So hopefully fully healthy going into Baltimore this Sunday. So I mind the more with the passing yards.
All right, so we're going to throw that in. And look, yeah, they have Kyle Hamilton, but he can throw for 6 picks. I don't care. I just need those passing yards. So they get behind. I hope the Browns go behind against the Ravens, which I would assume they will. So they have to throw the ball. And also, Prize Picks does like injury protection kind of deal where, if your player gets hurt in the first half, then they will, and you did an entry on the more, that they'll basically give you that pick back. I can't speak on it specifically. Go to prizepicks.com for more info on that. So yeah, Prize Picks sponsoring today's show. Use that promo code BGI, receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Tune in next week, and Kyle will talk about how we did with this pick. And yeah, we will do another next week as well. Continuing talking about Dominic Hulak. Hulak. I've been saying Hulak, but it's Hulak. Another interesting note is just kind of Chicago recruiting, Kyle. As our resident Midwest guy and often taking trips to Chicagoland, you can kind of break this down for us. You got Hulak and Joseph Reif, 2 guys from Elmhurst, or at least their high schools are in Elmhurst, Illinois. And then of course, you had Cam Williams kind of headlining Chicago recruiting for Notre Dame right now. So you just want to touch on Notre Dame, Chicago. It's always a hot topic for Fighting Irish fans. Like, you want to see Notre Dame get Chicago guys more, but for me, it's you don't want to sacrifice, going into the South and getting a better player from Chicago just for the sake of getting a player from Chicago. But I think we can all agree that like when there are really good players in Illinois, like Notre Dame needs to go get those guys. Yeah, and then I just want to touch on real quick before I let you go, Kyle, just the 2025 top rankings for the state of Illinois. You have Talon Taylor, number 3 guy. Notre Dame is very much in the mix there. I might even say the leader. Chris Burgess, Notre Dame is very much up there for him, and we'll continue to recruit him. And that's really about it for guys Notre Dame's recruiting in that top ranking there. But yeah, Kyle, thoughts on Chicago recruiting for the Irish right now?
Yeah, I've really played into that in my 2 stories today on Blue and Gold, my 2 commitment pieces on Dominic Hulak. Like, Chicago recruiting, we kind of hyped it up toward the beginning of the 25 cycle that it was going to be really important for Notre Dame with guys like Nate Marshall from Fenwick and Gabe Kaminsky from Nazareth Academy. And there was a couple other guys early on in this process that seemed like Notre Dame should, really prioritize and hopefully would trend toward Notre Dame. But then there was this shift of other guys, and Joseph Reif picked up an offer from Notre Dame after camping in June, quickly committed, and Dominic Hulak became a major priority after committing. Talon Taylor after his grill and chill visit in July, the wide receiver from Geneva Community School, started to pick up some steam with Notre Dame, and Christopher Burgess has been on a number of visits. So I kind of wrote it my 5 thoughts. Like, no, I used 2 words. Notre Dame needs to capitalize on Chicago recruiting this cycle and cash in. And I think so far they've done that. The 2 guys that I'm kind of really paying attention to as it comes to Notre Dame right now, you mentioned it, was Talon Taylor and Christopher Burgess. those two are big priorities. Notre Dame stopped by their schools a few weeks ago as part of the NCAA evaluation period. Marcus Freeman, the head coach, obviously, D-line coach at Washington, went to Burgess's school, and Chancey Stuckey was back at Geneva Community School to see Talon Taylor, the Irish wide receivers coach, has been there a number of times. So Notre Dame's prioritizing those guys. I think they're in good spots, and I think in order to call this a successful class, you're going to have to come away with more than just two guys from the Windy City.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff. Queued up this comment from Jason earlier. Says, I read saying he, being Dominic Hulak, more like Junior Tui Halamak, and then Randy he is more like Maris. Well, they are two completely different players in my eyes. I think he's got like the build of Junior, right? Not super tall, but just very stocky. And then the position of Marist. And it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Junior ends up kind of playing that Marist role. Just kind of a thought that I just had, like, I don't know, like Junior came to Notre Dame like as a highly ranked inside linebacker, like a coveted guy. Yeah, I think that could be kind of interesting. So Marist, I think he's out of eligibility. Maybe have a 19th year or something.
One more year.
I would. I think some of these linebackers are probably moving on, but I personally think that they're all going to be gone. The Kaiser, Marist, and JD, and I think we're going to have all fresh blood at linebacker. So I think that'll be interesting. Do you have any thoughts on this, Jason?
Kyle, I guess.
Sorry, I'm reading Jason. Yes. I forgot your name. The man I talk to all day, every day. My bad, Kyle.
Yeah, I don't get too deep into the Notre Dame football talk because we are a recruiting focused show, but my gut tells me Leafau will be back just because he had that injury.
Ooh.
Just a little bit more experience under his belt. Bertrand, I think, is probably going to move on. Same with Kaiser. So back to your comment about Junior Tuihalamaka, I know Notre Dame is very, very specific with their measurables on the roster, and Tuihalamaka is 6'1" and 7/8 inches, 254 pounds, and we currently have Hulak listed at 6'3", 225. So about an inch taller.
But the kids always get shorter as they advance in their high school careers. It's
funny how that works, right?
It is funny how that works. Just looking at my notes, Kyle, if there's anything else we want to talk about with Hulak? I think we just about covered it. So Notre Dame, 8 commitments now in the 2025 class. Not someone either of us logged predictions for Notre Dame to land. Not because we didn't think that Notre Dame was going to get him. It was just more of like, what's the push look like? When will they make it? What position are they even recruiting him at? We were just a little conservative in that approach there. But in terms of prediction, speaking of, I threw out a tweet today, and I want to talk about it. Not on the our show outline, Kyle, but I tweeted this out today. And for folks watching live, watching back, please hit the thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. If you're listening via podcast, hello. Go over to YouTube. But if you're just a podcast person, that's great. Just leave us a kind review if you wouldn't mind. I tweeted this out this morning. PSA to all recruiting writers. If you know a prospect is a silent commitment, is about to announce his decision, don't post a prediction. 1, you're not predicting anything. It's already done. And 2, you are essentially spoiling the kid's moment. Fans often piece it together. Now, the part about fans piecing it together, let's say one writer is like, hey, guys, got a good feeling a commitment is coming soon. And another writer just puts in a prediction for a kid. You put those things together, it's not very difficult to figure out so-and-so's about to commit. So this has got to stop. I mean, the whole crystal ball phenomenon, like, I love this, like doing the predictions, but it has to be a prediction, right? If I'm, sipping on a cocktail an hour before my buddy's getting married, and I'm saying to my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm going to predict that my buddy's going to get married in an hour. she would look at me and be like, yeah, no shit, we're at a wedding. Like, they're about to get married. Like, you're not really predicting a whole lot here. We can't do the same about these predictions, right? If we know the kid is about to announce a commitment, why are we predicting it? So that was my reasoning for that tweet. I just wanted to throw that out there. And then another tweet, maybe we'll have like a Twitter segment. This was interesting from Steve Wilfong at 24/7. He tweeted out, Notre Dame Director of Recruiting Chad Bowden doesn't like the NCAA's decision to ban photo shoots on official visits. I don't know if you guys saw this, that the NCAA put that out there. And I kind of understood it at first, being like, it's like the recruits will go on visits and just kind of, oftentimes they'll go on visits just to get a photo shoot, just for a good social media post and gain followers and whatnot. Chad Bowden had a really interesting take here. This is quoted again from Steve Wilfong's tweet. Schools not wanting to do photo shoots and video shoots, also video shoots in there too, for recruits are wrong. These are 15, 16, 17-year-old kids that deserve to enjoy their experience. Visualizing being in the locker room, on the field, and in the uniform is important. This is the key part. These schools are lazy and it's a hassle for them. So this is very much like Chad's way of saying this decision from the NCAA is coming from like the schools just not wanting to put in more work with the photo shoots and video shoots. It's interesting. Chad continues in this quote, if they don't like it, they should go work in the NFL. It's about the kids. We want photo shoots and video shoots for the kids, and we're going to fight like crazy to do right by them. Yeah, this was very interesting. I'm just sitting back here just eating some popcorn. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on this, Kyle?
So, believe it or not, my first thought when I saw this was subtly a massive shout out to Fighting Irish Media, Notre Dame's digital media team, because they do a absolutely phenomenal job. And although I'm not 100% certain they're involved in recruit production of video and photo shoots, I gotta imagine they definitely play a role in it. And Notre Dame knows that they have one of the best digital content teams in all of college football. This was something that Director of Athletics, Jack Swarbrick, specifically shouted out on the Wake Up the Echoes show on Notre Dame football's page. Basically, a weekly podcast that they drop every I think Tuesday morning with exclusive interviews. And Swarbrick was on it this past week, and he basically said that when he joined Notre Dame, Swarbrick, that is, they had no digital content presence, and they really built it from the ground up. So I think Notre Dame knows that they maybe have a little bit of edge, the photo shoot and video shoot department, just because they have such a strong identity there, and definitely want to capitalize it. And I was kind of siding with the NCAA's decision to eliminate recruits or photo shoots, just because I thought it got a little bit watered down and pretty
Out of hand.
excessive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of felt for some of these recruiters, friends I have at other colleges and things like that, but really respect Chad Bowden's little take here on the photo shoots. It's just a massive shout out to the operation Notre Dame has.
I remember telling my wife the other day, I'm like, if our website could just shut down on Christmas, that would be fantastic. Right? Like, can we just shut it down? Like, that's kind of like you mentioned with some of your your buddies in college football being like, can we just not do this? It'll make our lives so much easier, right? Chad's over here going the opposite. He's like, no, bring it on. Like, I want a full work day on Christmas, kind of deal, to use my example there. I'm kind of like you. I'm firm but soft on it. Just in terms of like, I can go either way on it, but Chad brings up some really good points, and I think it's always good to side on the recruit angle as the director of recruiting, to say, hey, player, I want you in this photo shoot. Even if Notre Dame can do nothing to change the decision, it looks really good for Chad and Notre Dame to be like, we hate this. Even if I think that's a good way to kind of go after that. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. Um, an interesting little item to talk about before we move on in today's show. Hope everyone is doing well. Again, hit that thumbs up if you have not done so yet. We are going to tell you guys about my perfect franchise. I'm sure some of you are displaced corporate executives. Maybe you're wanting to put your career in your own hands. Um, are you an experienced entrepreneur wanting to diversify? Well, Andy Ludicky can help. He's a huge college sports fan and franchise veteran, having owned multiple franchises and businesses. Using his expertise, Andy helps others find their American dream through a very thorough consultation and evaluation process. Call Andy, put your life and career in your own hands. And best of all, his services are 100% free to you. So, what do you have to lose? If you're just interested in learning more about franchising, give Andy a call, 404 973 9901. Check it out, myperfectfranchise.net. That's Andy Ludicky, longtime sponsor, Blue and Gold, and a great man. Enjoyed my interactions with him. All right, so last week, Kyle, I was not on the road. You were, so you got to see a player from the Cincinnati, Archbishop Moeller. So let's talk about him. Of course, 2024 cornerback Carson Hobbs. So I'm gonna pop on the film. I know he didn't have like a stat-filled game, but I know it was a crazy overall travel experience for you. You were
Mhm.
messaging me like Friday at 10 o'clock about it or something. I was like, Kyle, I do not care about this, but I want to hear about it now. So just tell me about this game and then that trip for you.
Yeah, Mike Singer sometimes serves as my counselor because I was a little frustrated on Friday nights. I know I've said on the show many times before. I'm an Ohio kid. I, I grew high school football in Ohio. I have attended many games at covering high school football in Ohio, specifically the Cleveland area, and I've never had an experience like I did at Moeller, or sorry, at St. Xavier. First off, no videographers allowed in the end zone, which that was a little weird. Actually, no one was allowed in the end zone, so that made my uh, job a little challenging. And then like they were pretty strict about the sideline as well. But that's just my little tiny rant. Otherwise, heck of a game for Archbishop Moeller. Carson Hobbs really didn't have to do a whole lot. I kind of mentioned in one of my stories this week that early this season, Moeller saw St. Xavier in, I think, game 4 of the regular season. Carson Hobbs had his one and only interception of the year that game, and I think St. Xavier quarterback Chase Herbstreit, number 7, the junior, who was the son of college football analyst Kirk Herbstreit, the former Ohio State quarterback, who the younger Herbstreit camped at Notre Dame over the summer, learned not to target the Irish commit. It was a pretty quiet day overall for Hobbs. Didn't really top, but more defense came up big, only holding Xavier to only 7 points. Won that game 10-7. It was a classic game, and I know I was really excited to see it. I never really saw like a Mole St. X matchup, and I know here in Ohio that's a pretty popular rivalry. And I remember when I was walking off the field, I heard one of the fans say that another classic Moeller versus St. X rivalry game, and Carson Hobbs played a small part, I guess, in the stats department, but was excellent with his on-field communication. And I also wrote about that earlier this week on Blue and Gold as well. So, yeah, was very happy to see Hobbs, and I'm really rooting for Hobbs. And then
Yeah.
Notre Dame safety commit Tabron Benny Powell from Lakota West and Westchester. Both those guys win on Friday night later this evening. We could see a matchup between two Notre Dame commits.
That'd be sick. Jason says Carson and Mickey will have that cornerback room chirping a lot. I agree. Hobbs,
Yes.
and Kyle and I have both been covering him for a while now. Well, like, he's such an awesome guy. Like, it's one of those kids. Like, man, I'm gonna miss covering him, and because like once these kids enroll at Notre Dame, we're not allowed to talk to them other than, the official media press conferences. Well, at least you're not supposed to, I should say. Yeah, Hobbs, one of his kids, like, man, miss interacting with him. He's just an awesome dude. And I also tweeted this. Oops, clicked the wrong button. Let's see this out. On Thursday, a year ago today, Hobbs committed to Notre Dame. So he pledged to the Irish November 9th, 2022. Awesome kid, great player, and a lifelong Irish fan. So very easy to root for. Like, you root for Carson Hobbs. He's kind of living your dream as a Notre Dame fan, that what you wish you could play at Notre Dame. Well, that's Carson Hobbs. So he was committed to South Carolina pretty early on in his recruiting process. And then once Notre Dame offered, it was kind of a wrap. So flipped from South Carolina to Notre Dame in pretty short order. So yeah, Carson Hobbs, Kyle got to see him. And then I am not on the road. I was very close to making a trip, and then I got in-laws coming to town this weekend, and just kind of made a business decision to stay local. Kyle, you are currently in Baltimore. Why don't you tell us about who you're going to be seeing and your trip out there?
Yep, I arrived in Baltimore yesterday evening. Nice little short flight from Detroit to the Maryland area. Super quick, actually. It was kind of ironic. I sat next to a pilot on the flight, so obviously they had two guys in the cockpit, but they had a couple pilots on the flight. It was really interesting. I was like, should I be concerned about this plane taking a turn for the worse or something? But kind of funny because when I was sitting next to the guy, I had a glass of water on, like, your little tray table that you put down, and we were getting ready to land about 3 seconds away, and I wanted to be a little bit bold and just keep it up, keep that table down, the water on there, and see if I could get away with. But my friendly pilot that was sitting next to me from Kansas, he suggested that I close up shop, and I was guessing he didn't want to get splashed when that plane hit the ground. So that's my little story about my arrival into Baltimore yesterday. But I will be at St. Francis Academy. Well, technically not St. Francis Academy, a local high school football field where St. Francis Academy will play tonight to see Notre Dame 2025 cornerback target Kevin Humes, who goes by the nickname Kerm. He visited Notre Dame earlier this year. Irish are in pretty competitive spot here alongside Penn State, Alabama, Oregon, and others. And Humes was on campus for the USC game, also visited in the spring. And I know Notre Dame is scouting a couple other guys from St. Francis as well. So be my first time checking out those guys in person. Pretty national program, so I'm a little curious to see how they stack up against their competition.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to your report on that. Yeah, it was something like the greater, and for folks from that area, I know I'm probably going to offend you, but just that entire mid-Atlantic region, DC, to Baltimore, you have so many, like in that whole just DMV-ish area, so many top Catholic institutions. And it was something like in Brian Kelly's 11 years or whatever it was at Notre Dame, he never went to those schools. At least he didn't go to DeMatha. I know for a fact because I sat at DeMatha. Was it last spring or the spring before? I don't remember, but I sat in DeMatha with their head coach, a legendary coach, and he was like, yeah, Brian Kelly was never here. That was when Notre Dame was recruiting Jason Moore. So Moore would have been the 2023 class. So that would have been last spring. So yeah, Notre Dame is Marcus Freeman in like 3 weeks of being named Notre Dame's head coach went to DeMatha. Brian Kelly never went there in 11 years. It was crazy to me. So yeah, when you mentioned St. Francis, that's what popped to my mind. Just that little tidbit of Brian Kelly not doing a whole lot of recruiting. I remember when Brian Kelly stopped in at Pace Academy in Atlanta for Jaden Thomas. a few years back. Like that was a huge deal. Like when Notre Dame goes to these schools, it's a big deal, especially these any school really, but especially some of those like private, faith-based school. It's a huge deal for Notre Dame to be there. Um, good note there. Uh, Kyle Kelly doesn't represent Notre Dame, but we will have Kyle Kelly at St. Francis Academy. So we'll definitely look forward to Kyle's reporting on that. So that is 40 minutes. We actually covered our topics for today. So we're going to wrap up the show there. If you're like, man, Mike, I want you to go to another half hour, I will recommend you watch my video with Tim Hyde, talking about this commitment of Dom Hulak. I'll talk about 10 minutes or so about the news. So you can go check that out if you're wanting some more Notre Dame recruiting content. Of course, go to blueandgold.com. We posted 3 stories right when the news dropped, so you can go check those out as well. If you haven't done so yet, hit that thumbs up, of course. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to blueandgold.com for so much more on that. Sign up for an annual subscription if you are interested in doing so. I believe we still have like $1 for a month deal if you want to go the monthly route for your first month, I should say. So yeah, folks, appreciate you. And as always, we will catch you next time.